Okay, good morning. We're here today to talk about wearables, and I don't know, until last night, to me, this was wearable technology. But now I have this device here, which is a Shine, which one of our panelists will talk about shortly. And my basic idea was to question over the next, I guess, 49 minutes, whether or not this is all a fad, because there's so many people talking about wearable technology right now. It kind of feels like a fad, you know? So I think I'll just start bringing my panelists up as they get mic'd. We'll start with Yonatan Wexler. Come on up. Come on up. Of OrCam. And then, are you all getting mic'd? Okay. And then Kamil, is he getting mic'd? What it seems like to me is that this is all a fad. I mean, with so many people talking about wearables, I mean, Apple is working on a watch, supposedly Google is working on a watch, Samsung has a watch, all these different companies have watches and different wearable devices. It feels like we're in that classic hype cycle where there's all these expectations about how we're going to quantify all this information about ourselves. But then I'm also wondering, like, what are we going to learn once we've gathered all this data? And what are we going, you know, how much more work are we going to have? So Amol, come on up. Amol Sarva of, how do you pronounce it? Knotable? Knotable, thank you. Kamil, come on up. Intelclinic, and then Sonny, who I think has the coolest name on the panel, Sonny Vu of Misfit. And he's the guy who made this thing, so he'll tell you all about that. So I guess I will sit on the end. So I bring a lot of skepticism into the wearable sphere because we're all talking about them. Everybody's got a Fitbit, everybody's got a Jawbone up, everything is kind of focused on kind of health and exercise and that sort of thing. But Sonny's product is kind of focused on that, but the rest of you all have something very different. So I'm hoping that at the end of this panel, you will break me of my skepticism that this wearable fad is really nothing more than that. So I thought we would just start with everybody kind of explain what you've got. I thought we'd go in this order with Yoni first, and then we'll take it from there. We'll just work our way down.
Hi. So I'll start with a demo. Is that okay?
Yeah, go right ahead.
So I'll go over here. One more question. Is this the clicker? Yes. Okay. Okay. So we're a small company in Jerusalem, and we're making a vision system that has human-like abilities. And we thought, you know, if we can have something that recognizes almost like a human being, what can we use it for? And then the idea came up is let's help people who can't see. And so we've been working on it for 3 years. It's a very big research project, and we're now coming up with the first products for the customers, which I'm going to be delivering tomorrow, weather permitting, in New York. So once we started working and we had the demo system working, we met a young girl, and she joined us. She decided later to join us. And let me show you a short clip of what the device does, and it'll tell you a lot about what we're working on. So here it is.
At this party, every name is bold. It wasn't clear which stood taller, the Corinthian columns of the New York State Supreme Court or the towering figures of New York society who mingled beneath them at the kickoff to the 12th annual Tribeca Film Festival on Tuesday night.
I'm Liat, I'm visually impaired, and I'm going to show you how the OrCam device changed my life. With OrCam, I can find things easily.
Ocean Spray Cranberry Juice. Alpro Vanilla Soy Milk.
Looks like we have to go shopping. Getting around used to be so difficult, but now I can easily check the color of the traffic light.
Red light. Green light.
I can also see if the approaching bus is the one I need.
Bus number 14.
Thank you. So one of the hard things in our clients is that they don't see very well. And most of them are older and they don't want the technology. They want something that is at least obtrusive and doesn't have buttons and doesn't need any special interaction. And we thought the device can recognize everything. Let's make it recognize the fingers as a gesture to say, you know, what the user wants. And I'll show you a quick demo. So here's the device. And I connected a small speaker so you can also hear. And let's see if it works well. Okay. You hear? You hear ping? All right. So I'll put it on. All right, just like this. I have it clipped to my glasses. And I asked Yonatan to give me a newspaper in the morning. Have you ever seen one of these recently? All right, then I'll try to read. Let's see. And the device can read anything, especially, you know, newspapers. I don't know if you can. I'll stand like this so you can see. All right. Okay. We can do this. Let's see. And it'll go on and on. So we can read anything, and we can recognize products, and we can help people go out of the house, and it's very exciting. And regarding Arik's skepticism, I think we have good answer to how you can use it and what you can do with wearable technology and how you can really help people. Now, before I finish, let me just show you what makes it all worthwhile. So I went to give the device to one of our first customers, and it turns out to be a young boy. And I got there, I explained to him about the device, and he was all excited because it's a new toy, and he learned how to use it, and then he runs off. And he comes back with a book in his hand. And he opens the book, and it's, you know what it is? It's Harry Potter. And he opens it where his father finished reading the night before, and he started reading. And you can't really hear because it's in his earpiece. But right. And thank you.
One question: how is it on reading screens?
It reads everything. You want to read? You want to try?
Sure.
All right.
You want to read my notes for the presentation?
Oh, why don't you read them?
All right.
So I'll teach Arik how to use it. Okay. Have we met before, sir? All right. So. Okay, so you just hold it in front of you, like this. Okay, and now point to the screen.
Okay.
So you have to hold your finger. Okay.
Wow.
We haven't practiced this.
That's pretty cool.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, Amol.
So I brought a few pictures also of the thing that we're working on. I won't actually do it. I think that's the most amazing demo I've seen of anything ever. My company is called Halo Neuroscience, and we're making a wearable device also. I have spent the last 13 years making cell phones, inexpensive mobile phones. The one on the left over there is Virgin Mobile in the US, which we launched 2001, just after I was finishing my PhD in cognitive science. And when I was doing this PhD, I thought it was really a nice way to spend some time and learn some interesting things, but I never thought there was anything very useful that I could use in my daily life or to change the world directly. I thought it was just a research project. And I heard about some really amazing things that everyone told me were, decades away and impossible to do. And so I thought, well, it's much better to make smartphones and cell phones and mobile phones. And so this business, Virgin Mobile, became a big business. And after that, I started another company called Peak, where we made this very inexpensive smartphone, which we sold around the world. And in 2012, when we were about to sell the company, I was reflecting on what I had done with my life, basically. And I thought, I've been making cheap cell phones for a long time. There's got to be other interesting things that are possible in the world. What are the most amazing things I've ever heard of? What would be really worth doing? And I thought about it, and I thought, well, there are some things that I've heard about back when I was doing my studies that were really amazing, and one of them sort of centered in this area. You may recognize what that is. That's an early running shoe. It's the first Nike running shoe. It's a wearable device. And I thought, well, that's been done, but it's when they started, and I mean, if you look at people's feet at this point, everyone has them, but when they started, people wore ordinary shoes. People didn't wear performance-enhancing athletic shoes. It was an absurd idea, and I think even 20 years ago, it wasn't a completely common thing, and now it's very common that you might wear shoes or other clothing or other outfitting. You might wear eyeglasses or sunglasses or whatever. There are actually things you do to enhance what happens with your body. And this thing I was thinking about maybe could fall in that area. And the other thing that I thought of was the early days of coffee. That's one of the early, I think that might be a Viennese cafe. And I guess it's complete with a man in a Turkish hat, a fez, showing that it was an imported, early, esoteric product that was hard to get a hold of. And essentially the purpose of coffee in the early days was to enhance the experience that people had. I mean, it's a drug, and at this point it's completely widely used. And there are many massive products and consumer brands that people have built around cognitive enhancement. You know, there's Starbucks and Coca-Cola and Red Bull, to think of another Austrian company. But I thought, you know, these are massive, these actually are real businesses. It's a way to think about the world. And as I was sitting around thinking about what I might work on, I remembered this thing back from 2000, and I thought, well, what has happened to this technology that people were working on? And it just happens that the exact month that this deal was taking place, and I was sitting idly waiting for some stuff to happen, and I was surfing the web looking for news on this technology, this neurostimulation technology. A paper was published in May 2012 by a guy, the guy who had first mentioned this technology to me a dozen years earlier. And in the paper he had this puzzle that you see on the screen. This puzzle is well known in America. I don't know how well known it is in Europe, but it's not well known at all in Australia. So when he did the puzzle in Australia, no one had ever seen it. If you've seen this puzzle, can you raise your hand? So if you've seen the puzzle, don't tell your neighbor. Almost everyone's seen it, but there's a few sad people here who haven't seen this puzzle before, and they're struggling to figure out what on earth do you do with this puzzle. It's called an insight problem. You have to connect all the dots without picking up your pencil. You only get to make 4 lines. And you know, you're probably thinking something like that, but that's 4 lines. That you haven't connected them all yet. And the few of you nervously wondering, oh, I got to figure it out, I got to figure it out. Well, what happens for the 100 years that they've been giving this puzzle to people in a laboratory setting is that no one solves it. The solution rate is 0%. So if anyone solves it, you've done something wrong. You haven't asked them the question correctly, or you've given them some clue incorrectly. And I mean, once you know the answer, I'm not going to tell you the answer, but once you know the answer, you think it's very obvious. It's an insight puzzle. So this guy in Australia recruited 2 groups of people, and he used this technique that he was working on 20 people, but didn't turn it on, just put some gear on their head, a wearable device that he had been developing, more or less, you might call it, and no one solved it. And then the other group of 20 people, half of them solved it. So I read this paper, and I thought, this is the guy, Snyder, and his colleague, Richard Chi. And I started researching it a bit further. It turns out the American military, we were watching with drones, drones have gotten a lot further, but the American military has been training drone pilots with this technology in half the time, they say. It accelerates the acquisition of new skills. And so I made the device. I made essentially what was described in these papers, and I put it on my head. And the thing that we're working on is a wearable device. You can see where it goes. You can see it's a wet, messy, horrible thing. It uses electromagnetic radiation, which I assume sounds frightening to you, and was to me too. And Well, I put it on and I played a game. I already knew the 9-dot puzzle, and I played some games on my phone instead. And amazingly, the first time I put it on my head and I played these games, I got high score after high score in the games I'd been playing for months that I'd trained myself on. And of course, it's nonsense. You know, it's a placebo effect. I wanted it to work. It doesn't make any real scientific sense. But it astonished me so thoroughly that I thought, let me work on this. Let me try to work on this. I called a dozen neuroscientists. I called 6, actually, first. And I met them one by one by one. They were willing to meet me. I had started all these companies. And every single one of them, first one, second one, third one, told me, you know, you're an idiot. This thing doesn't work. Why would you spend any time on it? Exactly what they told me 13 years ago when I was a graduate student. Even a day ago, in the speaker's lounge, I met a famous neuroscientist who told me, why are you working on this area? It's not effective for any particular purpose. Why would you do it? We need to do fundamental. Well, we made the thing, and we've been using it now for the last year, and we're developing and commercializing a wearable device. And the way it's different, and hopefully Arik will agree, this thing changes the body. And the thing that's incredibly exciting about a technology that might actually change the body is that running shoe and that cafe. I mean, the transformative power of devices to augment the powers of your body, heretofore untapped. So far, we're carrying smartphones, but fundamentally changing and enhancing the things that your brain does to make it more effective is one of the most exciting things I'd heard about. And so this is the technology in the company that we're building. Let's see if I had one other picture for you. Some science. So now we're doing science. Now we're doing controlled, double-blinded, large-scale trials with lots of people in them, and hopefully we'll prove to that scientist I met yesterday that the thing really works.
Amol, just one question. How far along you're doing tests? So do you have like a timeline roughly when you think you'd commercialize?
Well, you know, it's a healthcare device. It's a healthcare product. And traditionally, if you meet people in healthcare, I've started all these mobile phone companies. You just make it and you start shipping. In healthcare, no one does this, and there are very good reasons for that. But these products in healthcare go inside your body. Ours doesn't. There's a huge rupture coming with the miniaturization and consumerization of technologies that can actually have effects on the body. This one is an astonishing area, but there are many other related areas. It may be as little as a year. I mean, our trials are happening now. We think they're very safe. There's a lot of evidence already around safety and efficacy, and now we need to prove to the world more broadly about what it does.
But you don't have a strong regulatory restriction, or you don't have to get a lot of approvals or anything?
In different countries around the world, it varies a lot, and in the US, it's very restrictive. If you make an electric toothbrush, you need to engage with the American regulator, the FDA. Here in Europe, you need to engage with doctors and with the people who pay for stuff. But in any case, you need to demonstrate safety and efficacy. And our view is something you can put on your head and demonstrate the way Yoni demonstrated his device. That is a fast way to gather data in a way that, you know, a drug that you have to do a longitudinal trial on many different people is a lengthy process.
That's a nice way to segue into Kamil, who also has something that you put on your head.
Yeah, I tried to make it short to explain what I have on my neck. Hello everyone. Today I would like to tell you shortly about this device I'm wearing on my neck. Unfortunately, I can't give you a live demo because it would take us at least half an hour, because one of us should go to sleep with it. But yeah, I will try to explain my words how it works and what kind of problem we are trying to solve using this device. So what we are doing in Intelclinic is we are measuring biological signals because it's our great passion. And we think that it will be another big thing in technology, in wearable devices. Biological signals which you could measure from all over your body. And I will start with something huge. We've just finished our Kickstarter campaign. A week ago, we raised almost $500,000 with this little device with Neuro-On, a smart sleep mask. We've also won the Loweb Paris Startup Competition for the best startup in 2013, also with Neuro-On. We are a team of medical guys and engineers. That's why we think we could do something in wearable technology, in biological signal processing. So the first problem we are facing on is a problem of sleep. Basically, in modern society, we do not have time to sleep. We are busy all the time. And the second problem is understanding of sleep, because almost 90% of sleep disturbances is caused by inappropriate sleep behavior. So if we could measure our sleep very accurately, we could sleep better. But unfortunately, on the market, there are no devices that could show us very precisely, that could explain us about our sleep. There are medical devices called polysomnography, but it's really complicated. You need a medical doctor to explain you the graph of your sleep, and you need to go to the sleep lab, so it's not your natural environment. So this market is really big, and this stat would show you how the problem is serious, because last researchers showed that almost half of the American population has a problem with sleeping. 5% drivers admit to falling asleep behind the wheel during driving, so it is a really serious problem. So we need to understand how we are sleeping to sleep better. Basically, our sleep contains of two stages, REM and NREM. The REM stage is the stage when our brain is resting the most effectively. But if you look at the sleep graph, you will see that REM sleep is only 15% of our sleep. So if we could enlarge the number of REM sleep, we could regenerate faster. So our solution is the smart sleep mask. We track your sleep, measuring 3 biological signals, which is EEG, which means your brain waves, EOG, your eye movements, and EMG, your muscle tension. And those 3 biological signals are required to measure your sleep very accurately. And the mask will help you to achieve polyphasic sleep. It is a very controversial topic. Polyphasic sleep is basically sleeping more than 1 time in a day. So, for example, Spanish siesta is polyphasic sleep. If you plan to sell all over the world on a single person, you would probably need to sleep Uberman only 2 hours a day to ship very safely. The second problem is a jet lag and travel all over the seas. When we are shifting time zones, we have a jet lag. We feel like a sick. Our organism is changing time zones very rapidly. So if we could minimize the effect of jet lag, it would be great for us, great for millions of passengers each year. So the solution is a modern sleep mask, which could help you adjust to different time zones in very short time. We could monitor your sleep and give you a feedback, and could wake you up in the most adequate moment when you're in a shallow sleep phase. And the third problem is driving safety. At the moment, there is no device that could track if we are rested enough to drive the car, if we are rested enough to steer the plane, for example. So this kind of device, this kind of measurement could save millions of human lives. And what we are working on right now, it is the device for the drivers and for the pilots to track their brainwaves in order to figure out if the person is rested enough for steering the car or the plane. And the solution would be very similar to this band with tracking your brainwaves, eye movement, and muscle tension, and which give you a feedback if you're rested enough to steer those devices. And I'm saying that biological signals is another big thing, because it's not only tracking our sleep or tracking drivers or pilots' attention, but there are a lot of other cases that we could solve with biological signals. For example, lie detection. You can't lie the lie detector with tracking directly your brainwaves. Or we could get into the customer mind using neuromarketing strategies. And our ecosystem is going grow. It's not only a sleep mask. We plan to create a cloud service for doctors, for patients, so that every doctor could access your data and check it via internet. You could send to your doctor your biological signals through the internet. Thank you very much.
So Kamil, one question for you. I actually recently paid a few $1,000s to have a sleep study. And I got strapped up to, I don't know, something like 64 different sensors that tracked. It's kind of hard to sleep with all of them, I got to say. So how would you compare what this device tracks versus all the clinical data that comes from a full-on sleep study?
We are not trying to compare with professional medical devices. Our device, it just needs to give you an insight of your sleep, like suggest a problem, so that we could filter people who has a problem with sleeping, and then just tell them to go for polysomnography examination, for example.
So this is one of those cases where knowledge is power, and you can go to your doctor and say, I'm having difficulty sleeping, let's address it. This is what I've noticed. This is the information that I have from the last 30 days that I've tried to sleep.
Yeah.
And so the doctor will have more actual data that they can work with. That's interesting. Okay. Sonny?
Oh, I've got, oh, here we go. Yeah, it's on. Oh, is this? Oh, there it is. Well, sir. Hi, how you doing? Thanks for coming up this early in the morning. I heard there was a great party last night. This is great, you know, being the last to go after these amazing devices. I think we were, they asked us to be on stage to be, I guess, a bit of a poster child for activity monitors, which I think are, is this? Yeah. Okay. So, how many people here have used an activity monitoring device of some sort? Yeah, okay. At some point, how many are still using one? Okay, so some subset of that. You know, we started our, for those of you who know about our background, in my last company, we made blood glucose meters and strips for people with diabetes. And one of the last things that we did was a glucose meter that plugs into your iPhone physically, and you know, basically makes your phone into a glucose meter. And that was a lot of fun. And I think one of the neat things that we did there was, I think we addressed one problem that was the cause for why a lot of people did not test their blood sugars, and that was that people just forgot their glucose meters. They just didn't have it with them. You know, a lot of people think it's about the pain or whatnot. It's actually the hassle and just not having your devices with you. And so after we did that, you know, sold in the Apple Store, had a big pharma partner and all that, had a lot of fun doing that, we thought, well, what are other things that we could do to make it so that you can always have technology always with you? And the first thing we thought about was actually in this wearable space, which back in 2009 was still relatively young and kind of unheard of. And so we started thinking about that, and it made me, and up till now, we are now realizing that there's kind of a more generalized set of technologies that are kind of being consumerized now, and it's not just about wearables. And so, at the end of the day, because of the availability, the cheap availability of sensors, now we have this unprecedented opportunity to gather an incredible amount of data, probably more so than we've ever had in history. Two ways to do it. One is to do it, basically, that is to do it ambiently. Two ways to do it. One is in situ, which would be in the environment, in your seats, in the car, in the environment here, in like the cameras and whatnot. The other would be to be on your body. And there are limitations to both approaches. One, the in situ approach is that it's not with you all the time, and so there's a lot of infrastructure that's required to do that. The other is wearability, and so one of the first things that we noticed in this wearable space is that the space is a bit of a misnomer. That much of these wearables are actually not all that wearable, and so. As we thought about it more, and we read all the reviews on Amazon of the existing wearable products, we realized that there are a number of recurring themes here, and wearability is one of them. And so we were working on some other products that we thought that were going to address this problem from an invisibility perspective, meaning, they would not be something that you would see. And then we thought about it a little bit more, and we thought, the other way of making things wearable would be to make them gorgeous. So, either gorgeous or invisible. This is what we've been talking about. Those are really the only ways in which we can really get people to wear these things. We've always said that there's nothing more useless than a really accurate sensor that you don't wear, because it's kind of like drugs, right? The biggest problem with drugs is people don't take them. And so we came with Shine. We looked at the space and we said, almost all of these products made of plastic and rubber. So let's make something out of metal, something that you might wear even if it was broken. It's about the size of a quarter. The way it works is you just tap and lights appear. And basically tracks your daily activity goals. So you set your goal on the phone, and when you get all your lights, then you're done for the day. And so that's it. This is so we wanted to keep it really simple. We actually had a screen, we had a button as well. We actually removed both, and it was kind of annoying to have to deal with that because we still had to control the device somehow. We also wanted to make it so that it could be something that you could wear anywhere. So whether it's a clip or on your wrist, or wear it like a watch. You could do so because not everybody likes to wear watches. And so we also made a necklace, which was actually quite popular with many of our female customers. Also made different colors. So I didn't want to take up too much time so that we could have some fun talking. But that was the product that we made. We're making a number of other products which we'll be releasing later this year. But for now, we're going to start with Beautiful, and we'll do Invisible later.
So I guess my question for you, and I did set this thing up last night, and I just figured out what the lights mean, which was very informative. Thanks. So what does it track specifically? And I guess we were talking a little bit yesterday in the speakers lounge about your wider vision. I mean, you're tracking activity, you're tracking steps, you're tracking athletic activity. What else can you track?
Sure. Tracks the same things that other activity monitors do: steps, calories, distance, and sleep. Deep and light sleep. And the main thing was to make it incredibly wearable. That was our focus. You know, many of the reasons why people stop wearing these devices is that they're not that wearable. They're plastic or rubber. They're either not desirable to be worn. They're not comfortable because they're thick. But another top reason is people hate having to charge things. You know, I mean, I'm sure everybody here has at least 3 things they have to charge: phone, tablet, computer.
3.
Right, at least 3. And maybe you're an activity, but hopefully we didn't want to add to that stable with an activity monitor. And so no charging. The other thing is we made it waterproof, so one of the few products that you can actually swim with. And we have some fans here who like to swim with the Shine, so that was a lot of fun.
I swam with it this morning. It was great.
Nice.
Now I know I actually swam.
So I guess my question, Yoni, this one doesn't really apply to you quite so much, but I think it does apply to the 3 of you, is that, I've been thinking a lot about the work, when we were preparing for this panel, I was thinking a lot about the work that Gordon Bell did at Microsoft with his My Life Bits project. Basically, and for those of you who don't know, this is a researcher at Microsoft who basically digitized every aspect of his life. He was capturing pictures of who he talked to and what he had for dinner and bottles of wine that he drank. And he wrote a great book about it called Total Recall, which was published in, I think, 2009. And it kind of set the stage for a lot of this wearable, dialogue that we're having now about activity monitors. He was using health monitors. He was using cameras and all sorts of things. Generating all this data, I then begin to wonder, well, A, how are we going to manage it? But B, what are we going to do with it? What are we going to learn about ourselves as we gather data about our sleep, about our activity, about our brain function, and what, how that fits? How do you imagine that working out, down the road as we embrace these devices?
I think that clinical trials right now are very expensive. So to examine, for example, 2,000 patients, you need to pay $100 million. So if you have a wearable device precise enough to measure your biological data, very accurate, and if you have, for example, 100 to 100,000 users all over the world, you could run, for example, cohort studies of your sleep functioning, your muscle functioning, your brain functioning, and you get like a real insight into people's physiology.
So when you're thinking that there is data that you can gather from large groups of people who are going to wear this,
like anonymous data that we could use to create like mass studies of human behavior, human physiology.
So it's a way to perhaps facilitate large-scale clinical trials about different things. So you could, say, introduce a new sleep drug or something like that and have a control group in a large study. That's very interesting.
I'll offer a radical and extreme view. The thing we're working on is perhaps a little bit radical and extreme, but I mean, it is incredibly frustrating to have skeptics like you, Arik, say, oh, what's the point? I mean, there's a simple tech utopian point that more data creates more opportunity to find insight. But already with sensors, I've seen amazing things with brain sensors where it's not just information gathered, but the production of different signal from your own brain suddenly controls the world around you. Robotic arms and other detached devices that people are controlling just with their brains, just with basic sensors that are very inexpensive. And then the radical step further is these devices, when bonded with the body, I mean, that is the science fiction fantasy future that people thought was 100 years away, and that is literally just on the cusp. I mean, the ability to bond these technologies with your body and enhance the way your body works is extraordinarily powerful. To lift huge weights, run super fast, to transform the way you think and behave. It's so much power over ourselves. The most powerful computing systems we have are our own brains. It's very exciting to me.
It sounds like, while you were speaking, I was thinking of a friend of mine who used to be kind of heavy and decided to work out really aggressively, and he actually, has lost a lot of weight and looks really great now. And when he started, I told him, well, what are you doing? I asked him, what are you doing? And he said, well, I'm tracking my activity. I'm tracking my exercise. But he said a very key phrase: you cannot manage what you do not measure. And that was very enlightening to me. And I guess, Sonny, that really applies to the shine as well.
Right, and let me add to that that you cannot measure what you don't wear, at least in the wearable context, and that or you're measuring it ambiently, whether it's just on your head or in the chairs that you sit on or whatnot. Assuming this future that will be true soon, and I don't actually think it's true currently that we just can gather all this information. We talked about this yesterday. I actually think that the problem of wearability is still quite pervasive. Think most of this stuff is not that wearable. Like maybe people at DLD will wear this stuff, but the rest of the world, I don't think they like wearing all this stuff. They like wearing leather and metal and jewelry and that kind of thing. But I think it will take some time before people will actually start wearing this stuff, and that when this stuff will actually be something that they keep on all of the time. Quite simply, almost all of these devices require charging, so you have to take it off at some point in time. And I think that's a major barrier. A lot of people just, after they lose their data 1 or 2 times because they forgot to charge, they just say, forget it. What's the point?
Well, it also gives you consistency of data because, that's the most important thing my personal trainer tells me is you have to be consistent. You have to measure everything consistently. And there are many days when I wake up and I do not want to step on the scale and record my weight. And
there's a lot of limitations. One of the greatest limitations for, if you're looking on the wearable side, less so the ambient side, it's battery power. Battery technology has improved incredibly incrementally and in a very non-Moore's law-like fashion over the last few decades. And there's only so much space that you have to work with. And so that's going to be something that all of us wearables are going to have problems with. It'd be amazing if we could have an OrCam that you just have with you all the time, and it just runs for a year with no charging, no dongle,
Right.
That'd be pretty
well changing.
Power
is definitely a question, and you want something that doesn't bother you, but you also want something that helps you throughout the day, because if it's not, you're going to forget it at home, right?
Sure.
It has to have significant added value to your life. And,
and I think people would charge stuff if there really was like a killer use case like yours. That's amazing. That's going to change the lives of a lot of people.
One of your customers is never going to forget to charge that.
Yeah. Well, so we have an experience that people use throughout the day. So it becomes part of the daily life and the daily routine, right? And the person will not leave the bed without picking up the device. And there's a special group that have special needs, and we address them. And there's a question. I was trying to. I was looking at it, I wonder how long I'm going to use it, right? And it's a big question. It's fun. It's fun to know something I can measure about my life, and I can look back and say, oh, I made a progress. And if you can make that loop shorter, then you have a better product, I think.
Well, one of the challenges for all of us in wearable computing, and for me, I guess it's in the future still, but for those of us who make devices that are special function devices, is how pervasive and powerful the other gadgets people have are, and how to take advantage of them, whether just to use them to provide the application or not. In my last few companies, I was making the device that everyone now has in their pockets, and it can do a lot of the things that are sort of data gathering and other functions it might present. It's a way to reach 10x or 20x or 100x the number of users, and I wonder how you guys think about it, because I often struggle as a user myself of these wearable devices. A lot of them are just apps, and sometimes they are special function devices.
Yeah, I think like this battery power is one thing, but wearable device is a new market, but it's been existing for a while in case of medical devices. So maybe they're not people don't want to wear it all the time. It's not like looking pretty, but it helps people. So instead of being a funny on giving entertainment for us, if we could create a device which could really help people, they will use it, and they will be wearing for the whole time. But we need to be as precise as we can, to compare ourselves to medical device to really help people solve their living problems. And I think this is the future of wearable computing, not only to entertain, but also to help people solving real problems.
And help people manage and understand, get insight on the various problems. We had, for at least a little while, we had a standing room only crowd in here, so I am guessing there have got to be some questions. We're down to our last few minutes, so Please pipe up with some questions. Not a one. Well, then I guess we can keep talking. Esther, you don't have a question? Oh, no, we do have one.
My question is about the sleep mask. I think I heard about a similar product in the United States called Z something. I don't remember. What's the difference?
The difference is a biological amplifier inside. So like we are tracking, like we have only 3 sensors at the moment. So we are tracking all of those data together, and using biological amplifier and artificial intelligence method, we could first of all scale our product to the particular user, and the second thing, adjust the amplification of our measurement device, so that we could at one time measure, for example, brainwaves, which are very low signal, and for example muscle tension, which is very, very, very strong signal. So we are doing everything at one time, and this is the main difference, this biological amplifier.
Esther.
How Amol's thing actually works. I mean, yours is a passive sensor, as I understand it, and yours actually does something. What does it do? Yeah.
Yeah. For the mixed audience we have here, very simply what it does is neurostimulation. That may just be tautological just to say that's all it does, but there is an area, I mean, the body is an electrochemical system. Since Volta, electromagnetic waves have been used on bodies, you know, cadavers or people who are not well, to do amazing things. Volta, actually, who is one of the early Italians who worked on electricity along with Galvani, would present, I guess at his era's DLD in 1804, cadavers on stage that he would make dance with electricity. And essentially is the inspiration for the Frankenstein novel that Shelley wrote. So electricity has been used in the body for a long time. In the last 30 or 40 years, it's actually been used very actively. When you hear about people who have huge problems, neurosurgery, deep brain stimulation, the kinds of techniques that are used for Parkinson's and other ailments, electromagnetic waves are used in that therapy. The thing that's novel in what we do is we do it at a distance in a way that's not invasive. And it's something that, you know, as I mentioned just yesterday, everyone says doesn't work. Most people think is absurd, and we have seen it. And when I take these papers and I show some of these skeptics, there are long pauses as they process what we've just shown them. But it's something very new. I mean,
there's a difference between repairing somebody to 100% of what they were, and can you make people become 110 or 120%? And candidly, what the FDA is scared of is that you take somebody from 100% down to 80%. How do you make sure it always goes in the right direction?
It's a difficult area and not something to be casual about. Our work is serious, and it will be a well-proven technology before I let you try it, Esther. But in the lab, we have seen both types of effects. They're temporary, but we've seen both types of effects, improvements and also inhibitions. And the power is in tuning this thing for good. And that 9-dot puzzle wasn't on sick people. It was on healthy people operating at a high level, doing extraordinary things under stimulation. I mean, that's going to change. That changed my life. I think it'll change everyone's life.
Do we maybe have time for one more? I think there was a question over on this side. No? Okay. I guess that's about it. So thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Arik.